Hi, my name is Bala Paranj, and in this screencast, I will show you how to work with nested resources in Rails 2.0. So let's get started. I'll create a new project called Tracker. It's going to be a project where resources will be projects, and you will be able to uh, do CRUD on projects and iterations. Each project will have many iterations. We'll create the tracker underscore development. Now I can create the scaffold for the project. It will have name and description. So if you look at the migration file, we have name and description. Let's do db migrate. This will create the projects table. Let's go and see what we have now. Okay, let's get rid of the public index.html. Okay, it's projects. And let's create a couple of projects. Now we have two projects here. Let's start with the command line utility curl and play with this thing, and we'll see how the HTTP header is set and so on. Okay. Using the HTTP verb in the accept field of the HTTP header, we can actually do a curl -h and say accept application.xml application/xml -i -x, and then say get is the command for the URL http localhost port number is 3008 slash projects slash 1. See what happened now. The curl command requests the project resource 1 in XML format. The Rails dispatcher routes this request to the show action. Because the XML preference in the HTTP field is set, the method responds to the format.xml block in the controller. If you go to act controllers, projects controllers, show response to that XML, this block right here. Curl is not only good for testing of different responses, reference formats, it's also good for sending HTTP webs that are normally not supported by web browsers. For example, I can do, let's say, curl -x. I want to delete, this is the verb, and I can say HTTP localhost projects/1. This is the resource. Looks like it threw an exception for delete, exception control exception card. Invalid authenticity token. Okay, so that's the Rails 2.0 is preventing the delete. Okay, so that is the concept basically, and we can also do the same things in another way. That is to request the response format, the desired format into the request URI. So let's say in this case I can say project/1.xml. So give me the XML format for the project's one resource. Now it gives the XML response back. Same way we did curl -h, and we did set header to request XML. This guy, by doing this, we will show project 1 and request the response in XML format. So it responds back with the particular XML, okay? So REST specifies the URLs, identify the resource, and the action is determined by the HTTP verb of the request. So all the generated links, let's say projects, edit, here is show projects path, and let's go to index. Here is show edit project path, and they need to give the ID will be retrieved from this particular object. And here is the destroy for the actually this is I think one which did not work. Let's check if we can destroy from here. Okay, we can delete from here, so which means we are doing the right thing. If it's nested, we need to change the generated views. Okay, nested resources where we have like parent-child relationship. You cannot refer the child by itself. It has to be in the context of the parent. So in Rails, the models will have this one-to-many relationship. In this case, we have projects and iterations. Nested route REST controllers are still responsible for the manipulation of a single model type, but in the case of child controller, they also read the model of the parent resource. We'll see that any action when we create this resource for iteration. Let's create script generate iteration as a name and it has a start date, end date. Okay, and then you cannot really specify project underscore ID colon integer because it says t dot integer project ID, but we want to use the latest Rails syntax. So I'll open up the migration file and show you how that's done. So I also want, okay, let's start and end date. I want to say t references project. Okay, so this is the foreign key project underscore ID pointing back to the projects table. Iterations has the foreign key reference. And we'll also have declaration in the iteration model. It belongs to declaration. Let's say iteration.rb. The project has many iterations. And also now we have a nested resource. We'll modify the generated scaffold doesn't know anything about nested resources. So we need to get rid of this. We say has many iterations. Let's get rid of this. Projects and the projects controller. This is the create iterations. It's ready. Okay. Projects. Iteration. We have active record associations all set up. So the map.resources we defined, it causes the nested resource uh, generates the appropriate routes that allow you to manipulate iterations only in the context of a project. So the generated routes will have, you know, localhost, port number, slash, project, slash, then you'll have the project ID and then the iterations, as you'll see as we'll work through this thing. And it kind of corresponds very close to that. That URL will be like project.find something dot iterations. It will kind of represents the underlying active record association. And now we'll go and make modifications in the generated controller. Since the iterations controller, the scaffold generated view controller does not really know anything about the nested, it is nested. We'll create protected method, find project. Here you'll have your finder. You need to look up the project. Okay, so you'll have project dot find. ID is the project, the foreign key. Else will automatically shove the thing in there into the params hash, and we look it up here. And the index, we have to say project, and we have to call that method, find project, and then we'll use this project and say project dot iterations. This is the active, we are using active record association now. We have declared project has many iterations here, so we're just saying project dot iterations, scope it to that particular project, and then find everything. Okay. Similarly, the new also, when the form is loaded, you also need the project. We'll fix it later. We'll do a create, where we do, when we create, we can do iteration dot project. This is using the active record declaration we had made earlier, find project. Okay, so we have iteration model, it says belongs to project. In this case, I'm just saying that iteration that we just created dot project, I make it the same as the project dot find right here, this thing. Okay, and the update, destroy, let's make the corrections for the URLs. For the destroy, now we have project iterations URL. Okay, if you do records, you'll see these are the things that's available. After update, you can do project iteration URL, redirect to and you also need to say give two parameters. Project iteration URL, that particular thing needs iteration project and as well as the iteration. Then it will go to that particular uh, project's iteration. After update, it will show what's in there. Okay, now the create, we can also use another nice and simpler syntax since it's getting lengthier. Redirect to, you can give, and redirect, you can just say I want this thing to be redirected to iteration that project, it's its parent, and this is the child. You can use this location, or you can use the regular project iteration URL and specify the parent and the child. Okay. All the actions of the iterations controller will only work properly with projects, and you give the project ID prefix. They require the parent object that defines the context of the iteration actions to be present. Now let's modify the views, because the views are not aware of this nested nature. In the iterations view, they're not aware of the nested. Okay, so we'll go and change the URLs. In this case, the iteration, you can do this. This is also a nice way of shortcut. Say my parent is the project, and you can also use just by doing rec routes project iterations path for which project, this particular project. So edit is loaded when the edit action happens. So we also, as you saw, we need that value for the edit. The project also is needed. Okay. So now we have the project for the edit. This should be this edit. So now we have the project and the iteration as well. When this form gets loaded, this will be submitted to update, and update will do the actual update in the record. Okay, here. And okay, that looks good. Edit. This won't work. It has to be in the context of the parent. So you need to give project iteration like this. Same for the case of new. You can refactor this thing into partial, and I've already gone through that in previous screencast, so I won't be wasting your time this time. Let's go ahead and change the path helper method. This new will have project iterations path. Okay. And what about the show? You have to say edit project iteration path. It's getting long. So the shorthand form will be really handy in these cases, where you can just give an array. In fact, let's do that. Maybe later. Let's get this working. Project, and then iteration. Back will be project iterations path. Okay, so this looks good. This one is fine. Index. In the index, we have project. This is nested, so this won't work. This will blow up. We have to say project iteration path, and then specify the parent is this, child is this. And let's try something new. For edit, I want to edit. My parent is this, and my child is iteration. Okay. And for destroy, I'll do this. Iteration dot project is the parent, iteration is the child, and the method delete is what is going to route that thing to destroy. Okay. New iteration project should be now new project iteration path. So I think all views are now using the nested path methods. Controllers is also ready. Let's go ahead and see if we can create a new iteration slash one iterations. Couldn't find project with ID equals 1. Okay, we deleted it. Okay, we need to do a migration because we don't have iterations table yet. There it is. Okay, let's create a new iteration for the second project. Okay, new and new. Since we didn't initialize, it bombs out here. So what you need is you need to specify the project. You need the context. So just to make this thing clear, see, now we can go ahead and try. Okay, train developers due in, let's say, 4 days. Okay, these are all the iterations, and you can also go and edit. So you can update. That works. Update works. And let's see, show should also work. That works. And let's see, destroy. Okay, let's create new iteration so we are able to work with iteration. Create, go back, and let's see all the projects. Train developers how to use the tools. Train developers on Rails. update. So I'm able to do all this. Looks like we got this nested resource thing working. We're able to do update on the parent. Can do edit, update, destroy. As we saw, the previous project one was deleted. And we can do the same for the child also. We can do show, edit, destroy, and all the good stuff. CRUD operations on the resources. Now, what else is left? We have seen all this. Now, this is how the nested resources work, and we could build on these things in later screencast on, how we can use other stuff that's provided by the Rails routing mechanism. So that's it for this screencast, and if you enjoyed this, please recommend me on working with Rails. Thank you.